please be forgiving. But, but nevertheless, I'm looking forward to half an hour where I'm going to present you the journey of my company. So my name is Chris Reisager. I'm the CEO and founder of Nextstyle.ch, represented by this nearly real picture of our headquarters. I studied computer science under the thumbs of Oscar and Steph, but I escaped. I never programmed a line of small talk since then. For me personally, I chose another way. So let's start with my talk with the thing that I didn't create, title. It was Doro was so obliging to set the title for my talk before I knew one word about it. So I took the title as a starting point to my thoughts about this topic. So this is it: selling Pharo-based solutions, a more business administration word, selling the technology part of it, the Pharo-based and solutions. As a now brainwashed business guy, I would like to focus on selling, but you guys brought me on Pharo-based, on the technology part of it. So let's make a compromise and start with the thing that is important for the clientele, the solution. So let us start with a quote. Those two words, solution and problem, are logically inseparable. There needs to be a problem if you want to sell a solution, otherwise your efforts will be without success. So what is a problem? According to Wikipedia, a problem is a difference between actual conditions and those that are required or desired. So within this definition, one recognizes the main task of an enterprise, because in my opinion, an enterprise is essentially a problem-solving factory. So since the foundation of our company, we put all of our efforts to solve, into the service of our customers to solve their problems. That's the key element where you start an enterprise. So as a student, I was sensitized to include research results into my consideration. So during my preparation to this talk, I was also searching for current economic research papers. And the most accurate tip was this one: exploring the problem-finding and problem-solving approach for designing organizations. And the abstract of the paper reads as: an emerging problem-finding and problem-solving approach suggests that management's ability to discover problems to solve, opportunities to see, challenges to respond to is vital to organizations. And this description also applies exactly to my idea of competitiveness of an organization. So the fascinating thing about this statement is that it is focused on problem finding, not on problem solving. Because there is, within this action, the problem finding action, there happens to be the real innovation. Now guess when this approach was formulated? It was not far from today. It's really a new approach. So now we know what companies need to do to find and solve problems. But what is the deliverable of this business activity? Economic commodities only comprise two options: the services, which could be software engineering, and the economic goods, which could be a software product. So a lovely quote about this topic I found on the net So we didn't have an idea for a product at the beginning, but we knew how to solve problems for our first customers with magic tools like Microsoft Access. So Adrian, Leinhardt and I started to solve problems. We founded a company called NetStack, and with some relationships and some PR lucky shot, we got our first orders. This article is from 1999, and the title reads as "With Beer Idea to Success." No comment. We just had one rule of thumb at the beginning. And that's our first learning. The customer is always right. And so we developed a variety of solution over time. Everything web-based, right? By the way. The first one was a web-to-print application. Now, this application lets clients create standardized print matters. At the end, it's nothing else than a PDF. And this PDF is delivered into the printing process of our client printing company. Or another one, the inventory.net. This is an application that monitors scales which are all over the world. And those scales are delivering measuring data to our server. And this server monitors and triggers actions, for instance, an ordering. It happens that there are scales in Indonesia, for instance, and everything is monitored here in Switzerland. Or an insurance broker CRM. This is a customer management and sales support application for a Swiss insurance broker with around 50,000 customers here in Switzerland and around 200 users. And as a side effect, we also created some websites. If you're doing web applications, then the first it happens that clients come and want to have a website. So we create and manage websites, but nothing that I would show you now today, because it's not, the design of those websites is not for your eyes. So after a few years, we could look back to some exciting solutions. Although we did not start, we did not have any capital or an investor. But we also realized that it is pretty difficult to realize a substantial growth within our company. We can add an engineer more and more and more, but the gain at the end was not so bad. So where comes this from? The theory is this one: economies of scale. Economies of scale are cost advantages. When you higher your output, this should lead to a lower average cost per unit. That would be the theory. So let us return to the problem-solving factory and compare the scalability of manpower and products. If we use one developer more, this always costs $1, $2, $3, but on the other hand, or in contrast to sales of a product where you can reproduce, for instance, software at almost no costs. Of course, this statement is a little bit exaggerated. There is more than just black and white. So, for instance, a product, there is no product, I believe, on the world that doesn't have a coupled service, and this coupled service needs delivery services is a coupled service to a product. Is also an important difference. So let us return to the journey of NetStaff. So we developed all these solutions over time for our customers. Slowly we realized during fixing those websites that there is a need for a really clever and simple product to just update websites. Many customers complained about our rates for doing manual HTML updates, which is clear. You're doing it by hand and this is costs. And this was when CMS Box was born. So since 2007 we realized more than 500 individual websites now. And all are powered by the Pharo-based application. And the revenue curve is pretty impressive. So the blue one is NetStaff. The green one is CMS Box. So we can see how difficult it is to reach substantial growth with services. And you see the small amount of time, 5 years, we reached the same numbers with CMS Box. And this one is the revenue curve, the aggregated revenue curve of our companies. And this is pretty impressive. By the way, here, that was the time when Adrian left my company. So this unplanned, we didn't plan such a success. Just millions of Swiss francs, by the way. So, but we owe this one capability, and that's another learning for you. We listen to our customers, and I don't. The main reason was not to listen what they want, but to generate a product idea out of their needs. So in a way, our journey was a typical one, like this quote states. I could not formulate it better. To start with services to solve these problems of our clients was almost perfect. Because with the accumulated gains, financial gains over time, we were able to overcome one of our biggest challenges. How do you finance a product development for CMS Box, which costs around 1 million Swiss francs within 2 or 3 years? This is a really difficult task if you start developing a product. And that was another learning. The best financing is self-financing. No power anymore. So I congratulate all the successful startups that with venture capital and doing an IPO and so on. But not all of us are able to invent a platform like Facebook or Twitter. So therefore, I recommend you to stay independent. And services was the start, which enabled the development for us. Now let's come to the second part, which is probably the interesting one for the Pharo board.
No, it was cool. It was cool up till now.
Okay. So why should we be using Pharo to develop this product? I think object orientation is one key aspect when we talk about why using Pharo to develop products. What is natural for you all is also a valuable feature of business for the company. Due to the approximation between reality engineering the maintainability of Pharo-based application is much better. One can easily recognize the business rules of the application almost identically within the program code. I saw one picture at your presentation, Steph, where you had a screenshot of tests of business rules. So that's exactly what is a major advantage of Pharo. The business rules are more or less identically in the program code. So this is a real cost-intensive advantage because it leads to a major advantage called productivity. The other advantages I tried to summarize using the MVC pattern. That was the only one I remembered. But with my skills as a programmer, I was at my limit when it came to this topic. Or like Nick and Esteban expressed it at SU 2011, Margaret Magic. So this meta model framework, I guess, you should now be here actually. But this meta model framework is just awesome for the development of web-based application using standardized user interface components. If you understand it. So I tip my hat to Lucas, which is, by the way, a former employee at Stack. And no doubt, without Seaside, we would never have chosen Squeak or now Pharo. This framework still leads to an incredible efficiency advantage for developing web-based applications in comparison to any other technology. It's still on you. And that's one thing I was a little bit, thanks to standardized interfaces, we can also solve problems that the Pharo community does not have a solution for, or not a perfect one, such as image handling, PDF generation, or barcode detection. All of these problems are not there is no real solution that we can use within our business-based applications, but there is always an interface, command line, or sockets which allows to solve this problem with the best tool available, even if they are written in Java, like Apache Pharo. So we use image magic to manipulate images. We are using Apache Pharo to generate PDFs, and or setbar for barcode detection, and there are a lot more of such tools which we can integrate and use our Pharo-based application as a controller for it. Because the business logic is still within our Pharo-based application. Last but not least, this is you. So the small but unique community is also an important deciding factor whether you should use Pharo for the development of business applications. Especially the origin of Pharo at the university is a key factor there, because we have really smart guys, as you always say, and this leads to intelligent tools, and this is the ideal condition for intelligent products. Therefore, I would not like to miss the opportunity to thank you and your team, to a hard-working team, and as an acknowledgement for their work and the future vision, you asked for it. There it is. It's the signed contract for the Pharo consortium. Because it is important.
So we'll be blocked.
So thanks for all your work and your energies that you convinced me. Thanks. So should primarily serve an economic success. So how we give this grain the largest possible counterweight to be successful. And this is inspired by Günther Schuh. He is a professor at the TU Berlin, and according to him, technologies can be differentiated by those 5 perspectives. I won't go into details, but some of the key arguments for and against Pharo would be the advantages and disadvantages. The productivity and maintainability of Pharo-based applications is outstanding. Performance also, if you know how. So we had to learn, but now we have a really performant solutions. Adaptability is to new trends is low in comparison with other technologies. So this would be something one can address, or should address. And new talents are rare. This community is pretty small. This is on one side it's a good thing, on the other side it's sometimes difficult to find talents to work here in Bern. By the way, we are hiring. I'm now a consortium member, so we are hiring.
Seriously, Chris?
Sorry?
You should tell us, you should send an email. We
Yeah.
have 4 guys around, so...
So we are hiring. If somebody...
okay, I will tweet it also.
or someone we know is looking for a job, don't hesitate to contact. So, the next statement I should not tell in front of techies, but technology is too important to leave to technologists. So, what I want to say with this is that the choice of technology is business critical. Pharo is definitely not for all problems the right solutions. That is something I wanted to tell you before. And it does not need to be. But it is luckily for CMS Box. Don't worry. Another topic is your technology choice also important for the customer? What would you say?
For us, our real customers, no.
Exactly.
Just needs to work.
Just need to. So we developed our technologically unique product called CMS Box. It was also awarded. And it was significantly better than the products of our competitors. But we didn't sell that it is Pharo-based or Sweet-based at that time. But how can we nevertheless establish ourselves in a highly competitive market with thousands of CMS systems, even from France, or similar products? So, time for some basic business theory. I hope you're ready, but don't worry, just very short. So, according to Porter, you can gain a sustainable competitive advantage only using lower costs or differentiation. So lower cost is probably not a startup strategy, but differentiation is the key for your competitive advantage. So to be successful with my product, I need to differentiate myself from my competitors. Distinguished features could be unique product features, an outstanding technology, the most customer-friendly service, and this is rather new. It could be also the best business model in the market. The only condition for those features is that the feature is perceived and understood by the customer very quickly. It cannot be an argument that is not that does not fulfill this. Otherwise, it would be senseless. So let us have a look at the else there is the physical distance. Just the physical distance is differentiation enough to not compete. I hope so.
Or at least to not shoot each other.
Yes. Exactly. But there are still enough competitors. So look at the second one. It's a WordPress agency. So let's have a look at the screenshot of the back end of WordPress. And now CMS box. Which one would the user choose? Thanks to Simon Raz, who designed our user interface, we learned what was probably the real turnaround to our success. It's not the customer that is right, it's the user. Let's have a look at another CMS. Their price model is non-transparent. They use outstanding technology, and they close on the afternoon, even if the customer has some existing, some really important problem. So this leads to another learning, which you should.
But they are many.
Sorry?
They are many. They are many. I mean,
Many,
yeah.
because some others.
Yeah, because you can find the PHP, MySQL.
Okay, yeah. There are many of such solutions.
Developer, even if you lost your previous contractor, you can quickly find some guy who will patch your site and make it run.
That may be an argument. That's true. But what I wanted to to say is not the technology part. Sell solutions, not products, and definitely not technology. So as we already learned, the starting point of the buying decision process is a need for the solution of the customer, but rarely a product, and definitely not a technology. So I think technology is definitely not the deciding factor when it comes.
Can I add a comment?
Of course.
It depends on the target, because for Pharo, the target is the developers which do product using technology. So the solution for them is the technology provided by Pharo, I mean the product by itself.
That's true, but my perspective is
Yes.
I'm a business owner.
I mean, we
selling
can
Pharo-based
really compare, because Pharo is mostly for developers, not the end product for users.
Exactly. Then it is technology.
Our users are developers.
No,
Yes.
no. The developer is the user. He
Yeah.
needs a solution. He
Yeah.
does not need the technology. It just happens. The solution comes in shape of technology.
We formulated my comment, yeah.
So I'm lost. That's pretty cool. So another learning. The solution should also include the service that the customer needs after the sale, because after sales is pre-sales.
Yes.
Almost no product lasts for eternity. A website is replaced after 5 years in the average. It's pretty long, but it's still 5 years. The probability is much higher that the order is placed again at CMS box if we do all our best to satisfy our customer also after the initial sale. So let's come back to our feature, to differentiation. One of the most important one is to differentiate from your competitors is in today's economic world will be your business model. Since the establishing of cloud services, the solution seems to look similar, but the business model is not. Let's look at Twitter or an app.net. Probably all of you know. The solution is pretty similar, but business model is completely different. And there you can create your competitive advantage. So we recognize that CMS partner sales to those end customers is hardly useful. Swiss customers are very sensitive when it comes to a local personal service. And we cannot build such a store in every town in Switzerland. So, and in addition, we are all computer scientists and not designers. We therefore choose to a classic indirect distribution model of our product. So our resellers, which are here in the middle, which are mostly designers and advertising agencies, they are selling individual designed websites, which we then produce and where we integrate our CMS. Of course, they receive a kickback of 40% per sale for their promotion of our product. But like this, we don't have to sell our products to end customers all over Switzerland or let's say all over the world. This might be one strategy, but it's definitely not the only one. It's just ours. But this business model had to reach the true economies of scale because we don't have to go around Switzerland to promote our product. The product alone, I'm pretty sure about that, would have barely made it. So how do you generate your business model? Recently a new method to design a business model has established. Instead of a featureless and time-consuming business plan, several business models are sketched, compared and improved on this poster and using post-its. So this method is slightly feels similar to a Kanban board and the inspect and adapt approach of Scrum, so it should be natural for you. It's very easy to then compare several business models just on these posters. But to address this topic in more detail, one would need a dedicated conference. So just visit their website and learn more about business model generation. The website is businessmodelgeneration.com. And one quote of the inventor of this method was, "Burn your business plan." So this is the end of my talk. I would like to share some personal thoughts with you at the end. So although I spoke now more than 30 minutes to a group of techies about economic success, don't let yourself be fooled. But I too would like to see as many economically successful Pharo startups to build a sustainable ecosystem. But for me personally, I have another vision about success. Because for me, success is not a monetary function. Don't forget fun. That's important too. Life consists of more than just financial success or any status symbol like this one. Find a job you love and you won't work a day for your life. That's true for me. I am no more than a PhD student still, and already for more than 10 years. But I still feel absolutely comfortable in my own skill, if I'm not presenting it. Besides the concrete work, the social relations within my team are mainly responsible for this. So, because a team is more than standardize this idea on a stable technology stack, and then create